Judges chapter 5 verse 7. It says, the villagers ceased. That means the inhabitants of that villages. They ceased. The villagers ceased. They ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose. That I arose a mother in Israel. I like to go through different translations, and I think that is that the King James Version?
Yeah.
I think so. A new King James Version says the following. Villagers ceased. It ceased in Israel until I, is that the same one that I put? Until I, I'm on the okay. This one says, countries, towns were no more in Israel. Were no more till you, Deborah, came up.
Wow.
Till you came up as a mother.
Wow.
In Israel.
Big. Big.
Yo, when I promise you, I almost want to use the word stumble on the scripture last night. And I thought, wow, this is fitting. Very fitting for this morning. And I researched this a little bit and I discovered the following. Yes, will you give me some music? And I know I must be sure. Okay, so what happened was the following. The enemy came in, attacked the villages. Now you need to understand, village, or the villages back then didn't have walls around the villages. It was only the big towns that would have the walls around the city with a gate. So these villages never had walls around them. So the enemy came at this particular time and attacked the villages. Not one village, many villages. They attacked the villages. They stole the livestock of the farmers. They would kidnap the women. They would rape the girls. They would try and kill the men. They would go into the houses and ransack the houses, take whatever they want to take, and just totally messed up the towns. Isn't it pretty much like today? Today we have gangsterism, where it seems like, if you look at a place like Levendale, it seems like a handful of gangsters is terrorizing the whole of Levendale, Seaweeds, and Cuban Heights, and Hillview. It's not the whole of Levendale, it's just a handful. Exactly what happened here. They terrorized the communities, literally destroying the villages. So the people would now take their belongings and leave the villages, and they would run into the big towns with the big walls, so that they can be protected. And just few people was left in the villages. It was during that particular time that a woman by the name of Deborah looked at what was happening around her. You need to understand, not everybody left the villages. There were still people in the villages. This woman looked at what was taking place in her community, in her village. She didn't ask around the country, what is happening in the other villages? Afrikaans, wat gebeur in die ander dorpe? And the reports that would come back was the same thing. The enemy would come in, steal the livestock, destroy the houses, grab the young ladies, and would just terrorize the community. She sat down, and then something remarkable happened to her. The men in the city kept quiet. The men in the community did nothing. She decided, I'm going to do something about this. And this is what she did. She began to call the young people to her. And she began to teach them. She called the mothers in the community and said, we cannot let this continue. She began to counsel them, give them advice, instruct them. Say, come on now, the Bible don't say this, but I'm going to use my sanctified imagination. Is that okay?
That's right.
She began to cook pots of food.
That's right.
And said, I know you don't have. I know you don't have. But mothers, she called all the mothers together, and she said, if we can join forces, if you bring your potatoes, and you bring your onions, and you bring your soup bones, and you bring your lentils, ja, en ons, ek het nog 'n bietjie gas in my pot. If we all get together, pull together, we can make food. And then we can begin to share what we have. Little becomes much. There's strength in unity. She says, divided we are going to be destroyed. Divided we are going to fall. But let's pull together. Let's grow together. After all, we are women. There's something about a woman that a lot of men don't have. Now they're telling you to stand back and stand still because they're trying to record this thing. But as she begin to do a thing in the community. Remember last week I told you, it's time that we ask God to enlarge our capacity. It's time that we ask God to enlarge our territory. It's time that we ask God to extend the borders of our town. She looked at her own house. She also was a mother, number one. She also was married. She also had children. She also had a family in the house. But she looked beyond her own needs. She looked beyond her own household. And she then discovered everything that I'm going through, my neighbors is also experiencing. Let's do something about it. And the men began to approach her for advice. So what do we do, Deborah? In fact, she became the mayor of the town. How's that? You see, when God, or when you increase your capacity, when you enlarge your territory, you are expanding or enlarging your influence. Come on up. If you just eye my small corner, if you only think about your house, your children, your car, your garden, your fridge that is stacked with the steaks and the spare ribs and the gammon and the whatever. She became known because of her influence in the community. And all of a sudden, people started taking note of Deborah. She that called a man by the name of Barak. She said, aren't we children of the Most High God? Isn't it our responsibility? Isn't it your responsibility as men to guard our families? Didn't God say you must deploy the troops and fight the enemy?
Yes.
What's up? Where are you? What's happening? In essence, the border was saying, enough is enough. Somebody needs to do something about this mess. Somebody needs to go out and let the enemy understand we are not going to allow you just to come in and run havoc in our villages anymore. We are not going to allow you to grab our young girls and mess them up. We are not going to allow you to put our young guys on drugs and they become useless. Enough is enough. Get the men together. Send the word out to all the villages. Gather all the young men and the men that can fight. And let's take a stand.